Welcome, everybody. This is a meeting of the Nantucket Finance Committee. It's Thursday, February 19th, 2026. It is 4 p.m. I'm going to do a call to order. Chris Bowacki.
Here.
Joe Wright.
Here.
Peter Schaefer.
Here.
Anthony Guteland.
Yeah.
Jeremy Bloomer.
Here.
Martin McCarrow. Martin.
Unmuted.
And Joanna Roche.
Here.
And Jill Lee. This meeting is being audio video recorded. Can I get the agenda? Although before we do that, I'm just gonna let you know two important things. Because the agenda is sort of changing. Articles 33 and 34, we're gonna have to move to a different date. The head of the CPC was not able to be here today. And then we need to move the stormwater management, Article 71, to be the first article we discussed today. It's the consultant, it's online, and I think he's on the time. So with that, can I get an approval of the agenda?
So approved.
Second,
Second.
Chris,
Aye. Yep.
Joe?
Yes.
Peter?
Aye.
Joanna?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
And Jill's and I. Thank you. I'm gonna open this up for public comment today. And I'm gonna close public comment. It's always like, ooh, get a little tense in that one moment.
Always an exciting moment.
Okay, so you all know how the agenda changed, and with that, we're gonna go right to Article 71. We have Charles is here. And come on up to the table, Charles, and I believe we have Frank Ayotte online.
Hazen and Sawyer.
That's your consultant.
And yes.
Yeah.
And we've been working on the bylaw and regulations for the last 8 months or so. So
Hey, Brandon.
David Gray was scheduled to be here too, but his wife is just getting out of the hospital, so I don't know, he may show up, you know, but I don't know, Charles Johnson, sewer department, stormwater manager, and
very good at drawings. Okay. He can draw to scale.
yeah, old school.
Really, really
Pencil.
impressive.
Anyway, so I don't know how you want to do this. My idea was just to go through the article. It's pretty straightforward and well organized. I'll point out the things I think are important, and then, you know, feel free to ask questions as I go
How
along.
much actual choice do we have?
Well, the choice is funding for stormwater comes out of the general fund, or it comes out of a utility fund that this article establishes.
What's the article number again?
Excuse me.
The article number?
71.
Okay.
71. So, the article begins with its purpose, and purpose of the bylaw are to establish a system for maintaining the stormwater system and establishment of a stormwater utility. It also regulates stormwater and protects the water quality of the towns and states' water bodies. Problems with development and increased volumes of contaminated stormwater, you know, are listed here. We have contamination of drinking water supplies, contamination of the runoff, flooding, overloading of the town's system. And sedimentation is a problem mostly from development and construction activities. So that's listed under here. So under item D, the objectives of the bylaw are to protect the water resources, control stormwater runoff, and protect groundwater and surface water, promote infiltration and recharge to the groundwater, prevent pollution, pollutants and sediments from entering the stormwater system, and entering into the water bodies of the town. Prevent flooding and ensure that land disturbing activities don't increase sedimentation and impacts downstream. So under section 2, the authority is there under Mass state law. And it allows towns to adopt regulations. Nantucket is not the first town to be doing this. In Massachusetts, there are about 30 towns that have done it, mostly towns that are regulated under MS4 regulations under the Clean Water Act and all those requirements. So this bylaw also authorizes the town to promulgate regulations that will define how the process takes place. So this is just in general, how the utility would be set up and how the regulations will be enforced, that kind of thing. Under definitions, there are some definitions I wanted to go over. Altercation of drainage characteristics. So changes in land activities can affect the drainage. So that's something that we want to regulate. Under best management practices, those are controls that will control the sediment and pollutants from entering into water bodies. So that would be part of a permit application, how to protect the water, the town's water. It identifies certified professionals in erosion and sediment control. Those people would be part of the permitting process.
Can we ask questions during the?
Oh, yeah.
That's fine with me for this, because it's long and
Okay,
a little bit more.
so
complicated.
prior to, what other committees have in terms of policemen on that, this is, somebody who's looking for things that are wrong. Now, what are other town?
So like under the sewer, when we did the sewer regulations, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, the bylaw was already in place because the sewer system has been in place for 100 years. So we didn't have to go through this bylaw process. It was already in place. We changed the regulations. And that process took a year or two, something like that. But so we're told that the bylaw has to be put in place to establish the stormwater utility and how that is going to govern the permitting process, that kind of thing, enforcement, all that. So it's parallel to, what was done for the sewer utility.
Thank you.
Under construction period, erosion and sedimentation control, that's gonna be a part of any permitting that's done with the regulations. There's a lot of erosion that takes place during a construction activity, and we want to be able to make sure that doesn't happen or affect the stormwater infrastructure. Critical areas are defined, wellhead protection areas, bathing beaches, cold water fisheries, and shellfish growing areas. Those are all areas that are important here. Environmentally sensitive site design is it's a practice that we try to limit any pollution, construction activities or that kind of thing, and building controls that prevent that. Environmentally sensitive site design credit. That'll be part of the regulations that will allow a property owner to get a credit against their fee that's assessed to them as part of the utility. if they say reduce the parking area and the impervious pavement of their lot. So if they increase the permeability on their lot, there'd be a credit given them. And this is an important one, the equivalent residential unit. That will be the billing unit for the stormwater runoff, and it's based on impervious area of the lot. So somebody that has a big house on a small lot with a big parking area has more impervious area on their lot. And we'll look at the average lot across Nantucket, and that will be the equivalent residential unit. And it's a way of assessing the fees. But that'll all be itemized in the regulations. Most of these other definitions, straightforward. Illicit connections, we have connections that may pipe sewage, sump pumps, roof leaders, all those things that should be taken care of on individual lots. We don't want those entering into the stormwater system of the town. And illicit discharges is that discharge from that connection. Impaired water is the water body, like Nantucket Harbor is an impaired water body for nutrients, that kind of thing. So in the long term, we want to reduce those nutrients coming from the stormwater loading that going into the harbor. Impervious surface, that's something that prevents the water from seeping into the ground. Most of these are pretty straightforward. Land use with higher potential pollutant loads are areas that may have more of a concern for the runoff. It may be like a gas station or some kind of a vehicle service station, boat yards, that kind of thing, where the runoff may pick up contaminants coming off those lots. Going down under P, permanent stabilization. So the permit would regulate and the construction activities until the area is permanently stabilized. And then there'd be other methods of preventing pollution off those sites. And okay. Couple pages down, stormwater control measure is another, this is a more recent term that's for some kind of a measure that will help prevent pollutants from getting into water bodies. And that may be it. So with all the definitions, does anybody have any questions on any of the other definitions? I think those are pretty straightforward.
Anybody have any other questions so far? Frank, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, that was well summed up.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, quick question on not as much on the definitions, on that, let's go back to the point around the areas with the higher potential for pollutants. Do we have those clearly mapped on the island where we really know where all those areas are?
Yes, we do through the GIS process and through just looking at the land associated with residential, commercial, and the like. So yes, that
It would mostly be in commercial zones. So
yes.
that would be shown in the GIS mapping.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, just keeping things that would be one point in mind. The other area would be the runoffs, obviously, into where you get the tainted water into different ponds or different systems, and that would be another.
Yeah, those are documented on the GIS mapping, the different watersheds, the wellhead protection zones, that kind of thing.
Okay, and apart from obviously the high nitrogen, what else are you guys? What else are you sort of pollutants are you measuring for?
Total suspended solids usually, and nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus, mostly nitrogen in a estuarine environment.
Okay, thank you.
Peter?
Madam Chair, before this was put together and we're voting on, you don't have any of these regulations now?
No,
So you've just been operating by the seat of your pants, not you specifically, town.
the sewer department took stormwater over from DPW about 2 years ago.
Right.
And this was one of the first things that we're tasked with is we've been the town has wanted to get stormwater regulations in place for years, so.
Interesting. Too much going on.
Well, there's been a lot of newer regulations on stormwater and it's become more of an issue.
So you would have had to do stuff anyway.
Well, if we were designated an MS4 community, like, and under the Clean Water Act, we would have to do a lot more reporting, to the feds and the state. But we're not for some reason, so not complaining, but it's not that huge of a task. It's pretty much straightforward organizing, mapping and sampling and trying to eliminate illicit discharges, that kind of thing.
Okay,
But really,
thank you.
the state set it up so that we could do it, right? I think
Yeah,
that's what
Yeah,
this
it's been, yeah,
state act is, and it gives us the authority to create a bylaw. So
Right.
we don't have to go back to the state.
So all towns that were under this would, all towns that didn't have any regulations now do have regulations?
yeah, so I assumed that they had to go through the bylaw, its establishment first, and then develop the regulations afterwards. So the bylaw just allows the town to establish that enterprise fund, and the stormwater utility and the funding for that. And then the regulations detail how that's done.
So
Okay.
Brian can set up another bank account.
No,
Thank you.
we already have an enterprise fund set up for stormwater, so.
Yeah, but I thought this sort of makes it a little more, I thought this sort of separated it. But you're saying it's been separated for a while?
Yeah, I think 2 years ago when we started the
years,
storm, when we created the stormwater division, we created an
Yeah,
enterprise
right,
fund for stormwater. So that they would be able to, once they got regulations, which are before the finance committee ultimately go to town meeting. When we set a fee schedule, that money would go solely into the
Into it.
enterprise fund, solely for the exclusive use and operation of the enterprise, the stormwater enterprise fund. So
And it won't be
then it
coming
would
from the
hopefully,
general fund.
right, and it would hopefully, and over a period of time, would reduce the reliance of a transfer from the general fund for its funding. That's the goal.
Curtis, did you have I think Curtis Barnes. had it.
Curtis Barnes, has this been reviewed with the water department?
Yes.
And-
Water department, natural resources, planning, plus. Town council. Am I missing anybody, Frank?
Well, I think that's it. And we will be, that's the bylaw, the regulations. We've solicited all kinds of comments from those different stakeholders, and we've incorporated all their comments into the latest regulations, which are proceeding concurrently with this bylaw. And there'll be another review period that'll be coming up shortly for those stakeholders to review the final regulations, at which time after that, it'll go to select board and town administration and those folks as well for a review.
Jeremy, do you have a question?
I do. Just so I understand, this creates a regulatory environment to let the town, first of all, manage and measure all of these different pollutants, and then provide its own local regulatory let's say, guidelines on top of it. And then to enforce it, I seem to read in here that's the $300 a day fine if you don't, then if someone doesn't abide by these regulations. So it's a measurement, a regulatory framework to allow the local community to make its own rules. And there is an enforcement of $300 a day. Did I get that right?
Yeah, and it establishes the funding mechanism as well.
And the funding mechanism is to charge whom what?
Every parceled island.
So
And
it's another implicit tax of some sort to effectively measure pollutants and then give us the ability to regulate them down the road. Is that correct?
Well, it's not as much of a regulatory tool as a funding and maintenance and operational tool.
Isn't that sort
John-
of like the creation?
John, did you want to
ability?
weigh in on this?
Manage stormwater.
Yeah.
I would like to, thank you, Jill. So I just want to make it clear, and guys, please correct me if you disagree, but the fundamental aspect of this program is to require a permit be obtained by any landowner who is going to conduct land disturbance activities on their property. I believe there will be, it's not specifically designated in the bylaw, but I believe the intent is the regulations will specify who the quote unquote utility will be. And that will be essentially a town board that will issue the permits for anyone to conduct a land disturbance activity on their property. So if you're clearing land, if you're putting in a driveway, if you're constructing a foundation, unless it's expressly exempt from the permit requirements, landowners will need a permit from the town, and the select board, through the regulations, will be establishing exactly how that permit process will work. The other aspect I wanted to mention, Jeremy mentioned the $300 fine, but I believe this bylaw is being set up in a way that will allow the town to, in addition, assess a $5,000 civil penalty for anyone who violates the bylaw and the regulations. You've seen that before in the short-term rental bylaw. You've seen it in the conservation bylaw, and it really is designed to provide quite an enhanced enforcement tool that would be used in the event there are individuals who are, really flagrantly violating the requirements of the bylaw. But it's essentially establishing a new permit process. Did I get that right, Frank?
That's correct. That's correct. And essentially, it'll be Nantucket's framework to protect water quality and community infrastructure, ensure stormwater is managed responsibly, funded sustainably, and enforced consistently. And you're right about the funding. It's for operation and maintenance of systems. It's important that these can be public and private areas. The private would be strictly maintenance, provided the easements are in place to access these private roads. And the difference is, as well as if there's any capital improvements that are needed to systems in private areas, that will have to be through the betterment process. The Stormwater Enterprise Fund is not meant to fund those type of improvements. Okay, strictly maintenance and operation of the systems. Is that clear?
If somebody makes a donation and say they want it for another use, you cannot use any of that money for this use. I'm just saying, are you restricted how you spend money, even if it's a contribution?
I'm sorry. You came up broken up on that. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Are you restricted on how you spend money, things you buy, whatever, investment? money from the town, other than.
Yes, yes. So in other words, if a private system needed a whole new to fix collapsed pipes or damaged infrastructure, that would have to be through a betterment process. And usually larger capital improvements to even public infrastructure on stormwater will be through a capital improvement plan process and not through the stormwater enterprise fund.
Thank you.
Val, do you want to ask a question?
Yes, please. It's just because it's so overwhelming. Will this play into every single person who gets a permit to do something at their house?
No,
In addition,
No.
a new.
no. So
No,
I think
Okay.
everybody on.
yeah. So
In
if you,
excess of a certain area, and those areas will be established in the regulations.
right. So if you want to put in a vegetable garden, you're not going to need a stormwater permit. Okay. But if you were going to put in a vegetable garden that was an acre in area, you certainly might. Okay. So there will be thresholds in terms of square footage that I think are reasonable, such that the average homeowner will not have to essentially get a permit for minor things and landscaping around their house, provided it falls under that square footage threshold, which I think are going to be very reasonable, and those will be established under the regulations.
And that's why we're discussing all this with all the different groups and commissions and trying to get something that's fair and equitable across the board.
Curtis, one more question. We should keep going.
As a taxpayer, am I going to get an addition to my taxes for this, or is this just for projects?
This will not be a tax, it will be.
Will it go on my bill that I get from the town?
It's a
The
separate
It'll
bill.
be a separate bill.
User fee.
It'll be
Yes.
Associated with the sewer and water bill. It'll probably be in.
So
attached with that.
you're raising my taxes.
It's not a tax. It's
not-
going to be similar
so
to your
but now it's coming out
sewer
of the
fees
general
or
fund.
water bill.
It is coming out of the taxes, so that,
But if this passes, does that create a separate taxing event on my tax bill that's going up 40% in the last 3 years?
it'll be a separate bill.
And how much will that be?
So we'll discuss that. The utility will be billing just like the water.
Water
company.
sewers combined bill. I'm a
Right.
water commissioner.
Okay, so
So
it'll be
there's
probably.
gonna be another third
Line.
item in that bill now?
Yes,
And how much will that be?
so we're discussing that, the average bill across those, 30 utilities. We've done the research on that. It's about $7 a month. So in total.
Between $7
over
and
a
$10 a
year-
month. That's correct.
Yeah, over a year, we're looking at $100 to $125.
For an equivalent residential unit.
But
Right.
what is that? Sorry. Jill, what does an average mean? Because there's a big over under on these things.
Well, first of all, I think this is only applies to people who are on town sewer and town water. Yeah.
No.
Oh, this will be island-wide.
So how does that, so that'll be a new, so it will be on your tax bill if you're not on, if you don't pay a monthly water sewer bill? Or you don't know yet?
I don't think I mean, we're getting into the weeds of what the regulations and the fees may be. I mean, the article is to set this up to allow the regulations to be created. I think that
That's correct.
that is, that's more structure once we can set the regulations up. It could be that the bill comes from the stormwater division itself. I don't know exactly
Yeah.
how we would do it, to be.
It may be a
Is that
separate bill.
That's a separate step farther down the road at this point. The money, though, to Curtis's point, the goal is with a regulatory structure and a fee schedule in place, the goal is that right now we transfer from the general fund about 530, I think for 27, it's projected to be $538,000 from the general fund into stormwater
Mhm.
so that we can do the legwork to do a lot of this work.
Mhm.
The goal, once all of this process has been continued to the end, would be that $525,000 or that transfer would no longer be necessary. So it would just convert who's paying or how you're paying, but it would hopefully remove the need for the subsidy from the general fund and hopefully require for maintenance less of subsidy because we've allocated borrowing authorizations right now for some capacity maintenance and review of the stormwater system that ideally this is going to fund itself, okay? But the exact billing mechanism, since we don't even have the fee structure in place right now, I think is part of the discussion with the fee structure, who's billing, how it's billing, and all of that.
But if I live in Tom Nevers or Popus and I'm not on water and sewer, I'm gonna get billed for this somehow.
Yes.
So everyone's gonna pay even if you're not on water and sewer.
Yes.
That sounds like.
Everybody benefits from the stormwater infrastructure of the town.
Would Libby still have her hand up or no? I guess she took her hand up. Joanna?
I wanted to just understand how this would affect, like, I'm just thinking about a real-time example. Like, what if people were, like, we have talked about this here, the draining of swimming pools. How does this affect that? Like, or is that too much in the weeds question? Because I hear what you're saying, Brian, that this is just a framework to create this.
That's a
But
too
I
much in
want-
the weeds question. Yeah.
Okay,
But the regulations will address that.
yes, that's what I'm getting.
It will address
They
that. The
are-
regulations will address that.
They're addressed in existing regulations, but they will probably fold into these regulations
Correct.
for controlling the pools.
Issues. So, I mean, the other comment that I just wanted to make is I know that Charles and many people from the town have worked hard on this for a long time, and this is it's a good thing for Nantucket to have these regulations, and I really support this. So thank you for your good work.
Thank
Mm-hmm. Martin, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. If this has been the work is, as I understand this is a carry on from work that was previously being done elsewhere. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, the state has established towns, given them the ability to establish these utilities, and about 30 of them have done that in the state. It's not just in Massachusetts, it's across the country.
So I'm just thinking about a town meeting question here, so I'll ask it. So where was this money coming from before? So if we were doing this kind of thing, we were doing stormwater work in the sewer department, why is there an additional fee here? Or is that a whole new process taking place?
Well, it was taken care of under the DPW budget up until 2 years ago, and then it was transferred to the sewer department.
I think the simple answer to that question is that before these regulations are set up, the cost of the stormwater program is borne by the taxpayers through a raise and appropriate amount to be raised and appropriated at town meeting. With this, there'll now be a fee which will be charged, and that will offset the raise and appropriate amount. So you're basically transferring the cost from the tax rate to a enterprise fund through the assessment of fees.
So everybody's taxes are going to go down a little bit because of this?
Well, in theory.
And the fees collected are based on the amount of impervious area associated with what is considered an equivalent residential unit or average size home. The square footage of width will be established in the regulations. Not the square footage of the house, but of impervious area.
Frank, can what would be the typical impervious areas that would be subject to this fee?
Something,
and
yeah.
Owner could mitigate against that?
Yeah, so a typical impervious area threshold might be equivalent to about 500 square feet.
But that means a paved driveway, correct?
Correct.
And if you put in,
or a roof of a house.
right,
Okay,
if you put in a gravel driveway,
correct. It's less than pervious area. You're not being counted towards that area, the gravel driveway is not being counted towards being an impervious surface.
right.
Correct.
So if,
And
if you put in a
if you
gravel
change-
driveway, your fee's gonna be less,
Correct.
non-existent, depending upon what work you're doing.
And if you have a paved area driveway and reduce that paved area, but and gravel it instead and provide more pervious area, you will get a credit against the fee that you're given. So there's a credit process involved too. So a homeowner can improve their property in terms of stormwater
Right.
infiltration.
If they can get somewhat less than an equivalent residential unit, absolutely. And about the fees, average has been somewhere between $7 and $10 per month for an equivalent residential unit. It's not a heavy lift for the average homeowner, but over the entire population, it allows for a stream of funding that'll support the maintenance activities and operations of the stormwater system.
David, please.
First, I want to say, I'm sorry I'm late. I just brought my wife home from the hospital, so, what we gotta understand is that stormwater infrastructure is 130 years old. And it's always been out of sight, out of mind, until there's a puddle in front of someone's house. And then we get the calls, whether because of staffing or lack of maintenance, a lot of this stuff goes across people's properties that we don't even know yet. We're just finding some of these. And we've had some places where people have built a home, cut the pipe off, and then all of a sudden the road, two roads over, is flooding. So the initial part of this, once we get the ability for a bylaw, that's one thing we didn't have to do with the sewer, because we already had a very old bylaw. This is gonna allow us to take and start to look more into getting some funding to come in and do more research. We've already done an eighth of the island maybe with camera and something like that.
Yeah, mostly downtown.
Mostly
the
downtown.
Pipe areas.
And again, we found pipes going places we didn't realize it was going that direction, and the shape of these pipes are in bad shape, so
Are they still being used, they're functioning?
well, they're sort of functioning,
Being used,
say
they're
that,
sort of functioning.
and that's why,
But they were filled with silt. I mean, catch basins filled to the top, grass growing out at the top, so the grates, it was crazy. But, we've cleaned most of those in the downtown area, video cameraed the pipes to see what condition they're in. And, so all that's been inventoried and mapped, and it's been a lot of work.
we had a big problem in the Brant Point area, because when we cleaned all those structures and pipes, we soon found out that most of the structures were sitting on sand and dirt. And then within a week or so, they were collapsing, because they were installed at a time, and then they were just, over the years, they settled, got crushed.
We call them structures, but it's concrete block just sitting on sand with no mortar or anything. I mean, the first company that we had to clean the catch basins, the first two of them that they cleaned collapsed because the sand was holding everything in place. So, it's in rough shape. Should I go
You want to keep
forward on the applicability? That section 4 just establishes a permitting process, and it requires a permit for any land disturbance on a property over a certain threshold. And that threshold will be defined in the regulations. There are some exemptions. So fencing, maintenance of the town, other utilities, that kind of thing. It's pretty straightforward. And under item E, no activities requiring a stormwater permit can commence until a stormwater permit is issued. So you can't go ahead and just build a house without a stormwater permit. So on section 5 describes the stormwater utility. The select board is given the authorization to form this stormwater utility, administer it, implement, and enforce the rules and regulations. And it just goes through, I think that's pretty straightforward.
Do we know where we're gonna go to get the stormwater permit?
It'll be at the sewer department.
It'll be through you, okay.
And that'll be, described in the regulations too. And under F, it establishes that stormwater utility fee that's going to be based on that residential unit.
May I ask a quick question on that?
Yeah.
Is that how they're all done? Is that just the
Yeah.
standard for these sorts of
Oh,
things? I
yeah.
mean, it seems wildly complicated to me. And
That's how they all are. I mean, we kind of went out there and pulled from all the different towns and came up with this, and revised and, it's pretty much they're all based on these.
Mostly Mass, but we did do some other states, and one of the Hazen group that was on this is an actual former EPA regulator. So she had a lot of resources that she could tap into as far as other states or communities, so that's kind of where we're going with all of this. It's been a real eye-opening to us of
I
what.
mean, it's a whole new calculation that has to happen to every single property.
Oh, it's.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised
And
it's just
then
one.
get appealed because no, I have gravel, that wasn't.
Oh,
it isn't
yeah.
asphalt. Wow.
And this sets up an appeal process and all that, it's, yeah,
You guys don't have enough to do already?
No, we were bored.
yeah. Under F, the stormwater utility fee shall be imposed on all parcels within the town. Under I, the funds are deposited in this enterprise fund, and there's a list of what it can be used for: operation and maintenance, administrative costs, water quality monitoring, expansion of the system, pollution prevention, inspection and enforcement. So the rest is pretty straightforward. Under administration, section 6, the stormwater utility shall be the permit granting authority for these stormwater permits. And the permit procedures are going to be defined in the regulations. And under those regulations, we can amend the regulations and make changes in the fee structure or whatever.
The calculations for everything include even all town properties. And that's one thing, with Frank is, at what point or where. Parking lots for all town buildings and everything like that, they're included in the main calculation. It's not just residents and private homes. It's everything that's out there.
Commercial, parcels, downtowns.
Question, the $7 to $10 average property fee, does that tie back to what we feel like the general fund has been subsidizing this work at? Is there any, what is that based on? What are we trying to solve for in terms of kind of total revenues?
That is not tied back to what we think each homeowner has been contributing towards the transfer.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking on a unit basis. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, if it's $600,000 a year, does $7 an average
No,
property
we
get you to
haven't done-
600,000?
We haven't done that calculation. It's.
So we don't know how much money
And
we
that-
need.
That fee is for the residential properties. So it'll be a different fee schedule for commercial.
Which are much more impervious.
Yeah,
surface.
especially downtown, there's no grassed areas, and it's all paved pretty much.
Joe?
Can we say that this is work that has been done for years? And that we're now just creating a utility to do it and manage it? So that it's not really an incremental cost. It's something that we have been paying for in some other fashion over the course of time. So it's not really a tax increase. It's just a recognition of a separate stream of costs
Yeah.
that have existed for years.
But the system has been neglected as well during that time.
So there will be more effort.
Yeah.
But those sounds like those are gonna be capital projects. Just
So what we do now with all capital projects, especially for sewer and water, is everything gets replaced in the road as we go down, sewer, stormwater, water. So this will be a continuation, plus it's gonna allow Charles, and when we eventually get a team, to know where some stuff is. I mean, we've had how many sessions did we have with just the Lily Pond alone? Almost all of the stormwater goes through Lily Pond, and we just had people build some houses almost on top of the pipes. Without any benefit of, well, there was easements written on the documentation from back in the 70s or something like that, but.
No, back in the 1890s.
Yeah, just.
And 1920s. But the easements were never recorded.
Jeremy, did you have another question? I do want to keep this moving. We've got like.
I understand. Frank and Libby, at town meeting, I would suggest that when the town gets up and it could explain a summary of why this is being done and what the economics are.
Mhm.
As my colleagues on the committee have mentioned, I think it would be terribly helpful. The very fact that this work has been done, we are shifting the way it is being financed, and it is now a new utility, and it's very necessary. And here are the economics per average household. I think if you could do that, you will have a much higher likelihood of getting this all passed easily and quickly.
Thanks, Jeremy. Peter Halley?
Hi, a quick question about the practical aspect. How are you going to collect this? I see there's a fee, but those of us who pay all these fees, we don't like to see yet another bill. And can this be put on either the annual, or actually isn't an annual, but one of the other bills that we normally receive from the town, so that this is not yet a separate item that we have to pay attention to?
Frank, did you want to respond to that? I mean, Brian kind of already addressed that.
Right. So I think it's a little early on how this is going to be, set up to be built. Certainly, I've gotten feedback even when establishing these regulations about, residents being feed to death of multiple bills, and why isn't it just one bill, or why can't you consolidate bills? It's a good question, but it's one that has to be taken up at the administrative level to see how these fees, whether they can be tacked on to as a separate line item to another bill or otherwise. I'm not sure how that'll go, but Brian may be able to provide a little bit more clarity on that, on how that might be set up in the future.
Yeah, so long as it's a consideration, I think that's all that one can ask for at this point.
Through you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I mean, I think when we get to the point of the fee structure, we'll look at all options. We'll probably have discussions with the water company, since they bill water and sewer, whether this could be added to the bill. Certainly it would be my goal to make it as easy as possible. And if there's a way to include it in another billing structure that we already do on a monthly basis, then that would be my preference. We certainly want to make it as easy as possible for the residents when they're paying bills. So I would expect that we would explore all avenues on how to do this, to the extent that we can limit it from being its own separate bill to all the residents. Or all the impacted parties that would be required to pay the fee.
Yeah, I'd like to add, most of the towns are billing through a utility bill, so it would include water, sewer, and stormwater.
Yeah, okay, we have a lot of people that don't get those bills, so I think that's where the confusion is, and then. If it's going through the general fund,
Right.
if you're getting it through your tax bill, then that's confusing, if someone else is getting it as a user fee, and I think that's. Sounds like what you guys gotta figure out. Okay.
Okay, just to wrap things up, it's, section 7, under enforcement, this utility will enforce the bylaws. And the last section, section 8, that it allows the utility access to private property to the purpose of their duties under this bylaw. And I think that's the end of it, unless there are questions.
Sorry.
Chris, it's okay.
Really quick, I mean, with sea level raise and more water issues, I mean, do we envision this growing rapidly and that a lot of those activities would flow through this utility? The ability to deal with the waters from coastal resiliency?
Yeah, I mean, it allows the utility to have stormwater master plans that would encompass any kind of pumping of stormwater because of resiliency or water quality
Yeah, I
issues,
guess
any of that.
What I'm getting at
Yeah.
is, we're setting up a framework for something that could be, seems small now, but could become actually one of the more dominant and more important utilities that we have.
Especially in the downtown area,
Yeah,
for sure,
yeah.
yeah.
And I think you already work closely with Leah on a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
grants and.
Been lots of
things done.
Charles has been able to work with Land Bank, the Concom, the conservation groups. We worked with people in Pocomo, Sconset. It's been a good collaboration with a lot of different folks so far, just to get where we are now.
It connects everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Okay, do we all want to discuss this a little further, ask any more questions, or are people ready to make a motion?
I just think this is a big article.
It is.
With a lot of stuff in it that affects all of us. I don't think I understand it completely enough to vote right now.
Okay,
Are you going to, excuse me?
go ahead. Chris.
Curious if you're going to be in the time frame that we have between,
yeah.
what is the information you think you'll be able to gather between now and when we need to have our motions in place?
It's not that, it's that I want to understand how this was put together. And not necessarily that there's a definition of something.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm feeling like there are a lot of unknowns, but I don't feel like any of my unknowns are gonna get solved between now and the time we have to put
Oh,
together.
I'm not saying they're gonna get solved. I just want to know what they are.
And they're two different pieces.
Yeah.
This is just the bylaw to allow us to create a regulation.
This is a framework
Right.
which would allow for the creation of bylaws, which would be the day-to-day how it would operate on a day-to-day basis. This just
To the
creates
regulations,
the
yeah.
utility.
Right.
Which is the entity, and then you're gonna have to put the infrastructure in underneath, which will be another article.
Right.
Well, it'll be regulations that this bylaw allows.
Yeah. So will there be another article when the regulations come out or not?
No,
No, this gives them the authority to do it.
Select board created.
yeah, it'll be through the select board.
Yeah.
It'll be public
And
meeting.
same with the
It'll be-
Yeah.
It won't be just.
There'll be discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Seems to me that a huge amount of work has been done to create this, and that we should trust our experts. And that there is gonna be some incremental cost, because there are gonna be people identified in the sign, but it's something that's been ongoing for forever on Nantucket. So I would move that we approve it.
Has to be taken care of. I agree 100%.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
agree.
Chris, on your motion, Joe?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
You gonna abstain?
Yeah,
Okay. Joanna?
I,
Anthony?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
And Jill's and I.
We got Jeremy.
Jeremy, sorry, honey.
Aye.
There's a whole world up there. I'm missing people. Jeremy's and I.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Charles. Thanks for coming. David, thank you for coming.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
it's been a
sorry.
stressful time. No, we know it's a struggle.
How many new staff people are you gonna hire to do?
That's part of the
Part of the
plan.
regulations and the, you know,
Yeah,
the staffing
two
study.
more people going on payroll.
Now, as
Well, I'm coming off pretty soon.
Lucky you.
Okay, next up, we're gonna,
Thanks, guys.
thanks, Charles. Thanks, David. We're gonna look at Article 36. Val, do you want to come up to the table? And we have Amy DeCibio online. Hello, Amy.
Hi, Jill. Hi, everybody.
And I think, Val, do you want to give us an update of kind of what you all were thinking?
I'm gonna let Amy do that because she's really put the bulk of this together.
Okay,
In
and we have John and Libby on today,
Okay.
so maybe we can have a little more discussion.
Right, as well.
Okay.
You don't need to mention me. That was okay with you without it.
Great.
Amy, you wanna kind of tell us, give us an update on where you are and what you're thinking
Yes,
about
sure.
since we last met?
Okay, great. First of all, thank you. Val and I were very grateful for all the time you guys gave us when we were there last time. And I think we got some really good suggestions and we listened to you and we've done some homework here. And I think Val has a copy of what we would like to, how we would like to just amend the very last sentence. And I don't know that we know all the procedures on this, but I don't know if this is something that we could amend now or if we have to do this from the floor or whatever. But we tried to close the loop on a couple of questions that you had, and I think we addressed that. So the material change here is after the semicolon after letter E. And so just to run through you items, basically this article, just to reiterate for those of you who weren't here, I don't think Mr. Giorgio was here that day. We're asking the town essentially to set up an offshore wind stabilization fund. And letters A through E sort of list many of the reasons that the town or many items for which the town has had to pay and will have to pay money. And so we thought a stabilization fund would make a great idea and would be a great idea. And just to reiterate, the first time we brought this through, we didn't suggest a dollar amount because we thought perhaps that would be something that the town would know better. But I believe after kind of doing some work and talking to you guys that a dollar amount does make sense. It doesn't leave this so open-ended. So where this changes is just after the semicolon, after farms, after wind farms, the last one after item E. And it just says that how we think it could be funded and should be funded and the amount. And the amount we came up with would be $1 million. Now, the town asked, just to give you a point of reference, in its list of demands for Vineyard Wind last summer, they were looking for $10 million from Vineyard Wind as a settlement for the blade break. And if you recall, that nothing happened there. But in fact, the town did end up with a $10.5 million settlement with GE Vernova over the blade break. So the wind turbine provider paid a $10.5 million payment, and that payment and that agreement indemnified both the turbine maker, GE Vernova, and the wind farm owner, Vineyard Wind, for anything related to that blade failure. So bearing that in mind, just as a point of reference, Peter, I believe, was the person who suggested insurance. And we got to thinking a lot more about that. So perhaps that $1 million would be best used, first of all, to do some type of risk assessment for the town with respect to offshore wind, not just for blade failure, but for oil leaks, anything that could impact the town, and even business interruption and cleanup, et cetera, et cetera. So there would be a fee that the town would have to pay for risk assessment. And then beyond that, perhaps take on a $10 million policy, just again, using that $10 million as a point of reference. And I did speak to an exec at a large public insurance company, a senior exec doing some research here. We talked to him, and he said the way that premium would work would be roughly 2% per annum of the 10 million, which works out to about $200,000 a year. And in the event that there would be a catastrophic situation, you'd have a deductible you'd have to get by. And then, of course, things like cleanup, business interruptions, claims lawyers, and all kinds of things. So that was the thought process on the money. The other thing to bear in mind is that the economics for these projects are not good unless there is incredible government support through tax credits and through really, great power purchase agreements that they're allowed to secure. And right now, all of that is questionable where this goes. We have a government that is not favorable, a federal government that's not favorable to these projects, but yet we have a big one standing out there. And one of the things that this senior exec said to me, very senior exec said, is, the first thing that these companies do when money gets tight is they start doing things like deferring maintenance and change the maintenance schedule. And these projects could be stressed more, at which point your risk would go up. So we are hoping that an amendment like this might be something that you would support. We think it makes really good sense to certainly do a risk assessment and to be prepared, as we mentioned in the last one, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. But we really tried to take what, to tighten this up a bit and not leave it so open-ended with a dollar amount. And we also believe where it could be funded from. And there's one number here I just want to check is around the year, but this could be funded, for example, we're not looking to get in the way of someone looking for a claim from the blade break of summer of 2024. There will be a line that process has begun. Applications are in for businesses, et cetera, who believe they have lost income because of the blade failure. We are suggesting that after that process has gone through, that if there are funds left over, that something up to $1 million should seed this. And through any other payments that we do ever get, which right now we don't have something on the docket going forward, that a good source would be to work this into any other contract if the town, God forbid, has to deal with another one of these things, that each year up to, with a limit of $1 million, could be added to this to make sure that we are protected and that we could pay insurance premiums with respect to it.
Excuse me for 1 second.
Peter, go ahead.
My anticipation would be that I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Okay, if business interruption insurance, the retailer or the manufacturer, whatever it is, they have their own insurance. Okay, and that you can't get it twice. So I understand what you're saying, but it's just, I don't follow where if the money's gonna come from and why.
So the businesses would have business interruption insurance, but we're already paying these businesses as per this particular, out of this fund. So maybe, I'm not quite sure what you're saying. We're already doing this. But it's not insurance, correct? So maybe you can't double dip on the same thing, insurance. Well, maybe the business insurance the business interruption isn't maybe the world's best example, but there are certainly many, many expenses here around you'd have the deductible first, the cleanup, and any claims lawyers setting anything up. If we were able to put together another lawsuit like they did, or another agreement like they did with respect to this one, to even come up with the $10.5 million, it's costly for the town. And it could get a lot worse than this,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Giorgio, would you like to weigh in on this and the process? Like, maybe you take us to the process of how to amend this first, and then if you want to then address some of the substance of the change.
I very much would appreciate that. As I indicated in my review of this citizens article in December, the article is not technically correct, because the town meeting has to vote two things. One is to create a special purpose stabilization fund, and that's done by accepting the statute. I believe I said in my comments we could fix that in the motion, but we want to make sure that whatever motion is put before town meeting is in the correct legal form. And I'm happy to provide that. It's just a change to the first couple of lines in the article. That's the easy part. Once you create a special purpose stabilization fund, all revenue identified in the vote must be deposited in the special purpose stabilization fund. But I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. The source of funding for a stabilization fund is either through an appropriation by town meeting, and that would typically be from free cash or potentially the tax rate. But the other thing the statute lets you do is dedicate all or a percentage of revenue identified in the vote goes into that stabilization fund and must be appropriated by town meeting in the future for the purposes stated in the, again, in the vote. So,
So one of the issues with that, it sounds to me, because stabilization funds require the voters vote out the money so that can be used.
Right.
And so one of the issues I'm having with this article is that you're we discussed it last time more as an emergency fund. But if you have to wait for a town meeting to authorize using the money, then it's not going to be able to be used. So I don't know that the stabilization fund is the right avenue for what you're trying to accomplish or what I heard you say in January.
So, Jill, if I can just say, if I could finish my thoughts here as well. The additional language that is being proposed, which I just saw for the first time this afternoon, is problematic because it cannot be accomplished. So under the statute, the revenue, once the vote to dedicate a particular revenue stream must be made by town meeting prior to the fiscal year in which the dedication takes effect. So no money can flow into this special purpose stabilization fund through a dedication vote if the money was received prior to July 1st of 2026. That's just the way the law works. So that's one issue that I think is going to be problematic for what I would call this, revised proposal. And then the other question I had is about this $1 million cap. And I guess I would ask the proponents is that a cap on the amount of money that can go into this stabilization fund through dedication each year? Or is that a limitation on how much money can be appropriated by town meeting out of the fund each year? That was confusing to me. I didn't understand what the intent was.
Go ahead, Amy.
Through you, Jill. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Giorgio. That is not to exceed $1 million being placed into the fund in any one single year.
Okay, so there's no limit on the amount that could be appropriated out by town meeting at any one time. Okay, so here's the problem with that. The statute says the amount to be dedicated must be expressed by a percentage of the revenue that's received, not a specific dollar amount.
According to the statute.
Correct.
So through you,
Amy, go ahead.
Mr. Giorgio, is there a way, and I think this was inexperience by Val and me, we probably should have talked to you very early on this, and we did not. We did consult with a lawyer who actually helped us write this, but not you. And I'm sorry, I don't think I know it's on the website. I didn't see it and we didn't really realize that we should have done that first. So I'm sorry to come in backwards here, but is
Well,
there?
Amy, there's time to fix it. So that's the good news.
Okay, that's the question. So is it something that we should do offline to try to fix it and then come back? I don't want to waste everybody's time if we're so far off, or how do we get to that?
Yeah, two things. So it would, my office hours obviously are over in terms of citizen articles, but if the finance committee or the town manager wants me to work with you to come up with a revision, they can authorize me to talk to you further. So that's up to them, really.
It's really up to the town manager. I think, again, I want to point out this is a stabilization fund, and Amy, I think if you and Val want to keep it as a stabilization fund, again, that's different than kind of accumulating money that you can deploy quickly. So I think you need to think about that too. That's different than like an emergency reserve fund or,
right.
You know,
And
maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe you want to have it in a fund like that, so it accrues money, so it builds up, you know, in case of a crisis. But again, if there's something that happens quickly, like a blade failure and it's unexpected, you're not going to be able to access that money unless it just happens to fit in with the timing.
Right, but a lot of.
Joanna, did you have a question?
So I'm just trying to listen and understand. So essentially, what's happening here is this sounds like it's the wrong mechanism, funding mechanism through which the stabilization fund rather, through which she could, or the proponents could accumulate money to help in terms of a disaster, because to release the funds, it would have to be voted on at town meeting. Is that true?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. Then the second problem is the source of the money is problematic because it occurred outside of the funding year. Is that also true?
In
I
this
don't, the
amendment,
funding, the source of the funding isn't problematic. The timing of the amendment is problematic because it would have to start on July 1st, 2026. Not the way they had written it.
Right.
But it could potentially, Joanna, apply to future payments the town receives
Okay.
after July 1st of 2026.
Okay.
But the way this is written, it would go all the way back to January 1st of 2026. And that's just not possible the way the statute's written. So as to the 10.4 million that GE Genova paid, that's really going to be outside of this process. It's going to have to be, it would have to apply to future revenue after July 1st of 26, if I'm making myself clear.
Okay, so then I have one more thought. So what if, because I'm also hearing this idea around having some sort of a risk audit. What if, and I don't know that we don't do this anyway, right? So I guess the question really from me is two parts. Have we had some sort of a risk assessment where from some sort of an insurance agency that would advise us to have any type of additional insurance policy? Because we spent some time talking about this the last time. So, and I know there's some people on this call who can probably answer that question. And then if there wasn't such a thing, is there a way to talk about having one?
do you want to weigh in on that?
A risk assessment for what? Because if you're, I mean,
Like a future blade failure or something?
Yes.
I mean, if you're talking about, we could have our broker and our consultant help us with a risk assessment for the town, but the business, the business interruption insurance would only be an insurance policy to cover any town losses. It wouldn't be to cover every business on the island. So
Right.
I think, if I correct me if I'm wrong, to Amy and to Val, the way I was thinking that you, or was understanding it, is the business risk insurance was really to cover losses by island businesses, not only the town.
I don't think we were just thinking about, that was just an example.
Okay.
Yeah, to be honest with you, the business interruption was secondary. And if that doesn't work, the town itself has a lot of risk here already. And I understand that the town wouldn't be taking insurance out for the businesses for sure.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Chris, go for it.
Sorry, read
Yeah.
that. Yeah, but you. I defer to you mostly.
Is the concern here that something will happen and we won't be able to afford to pay for it? Or is the concern here that something will happen that you think there are things we should do, but that we won't want to do them because they're expensive? Like, I'm trying to get it. I'm really struggling with
Well,
what's trying
because there are so many unknowns, you don't know what's gonna happen. This was one little piece of a blade and look at the havoc it
Yeah.
wreaked. We're trying to say, we need as a community to be ready. We don't know what the next issue is gonna be. And we're making the conversation happen. That's our goal.
Well, that's what I feel. I feel
Yeah.
like it's intended to raise the profile of the risk of windmills. And we're confusing that with financial actions of the town to some degree. Like, it feels,
Yeah.
I don't want to denigrate the conversation because I think it's really serious and real, but it feels almost more PR-y and trying to make us feel the pain through the operating budget now to raise the profile of the risks, as opposed to really needing to do a financial machination here. I don't know if I'm explaining myself well.
And so if I can interrupt for 1 second, I think it puts the onus on us rather than on the windmill people. If the blade breaks, it's a big cost, they should be paying it. We shouldn't have to have our own pot of money to pay it.
Well, how's that been going for us so far? They bear no responsibility to anything. So we're simply saying, we need to cover our own tracks. Nobody else is gonna do it. And I don't know, if it's not the town, then who?
Joe, do you have a question?
Life is, there are risks in life. And there's nothing you can do to eliminate all the risks. There are risks that we have a big northeastern storm and it floods the town. And all the electricity goes out. I don't think we can pick things that we want to do, especially offline, to mitigate risk. I just don't think that makes sense. I think that's, and I think the mechanism for getting money available is so difficult and convoluted that it is just not something we should spend a lot of time on.
Anthony? I haven't heard from you yet.
It's fine, Madam Chair. Just I wanted to make you aware that Amy's had her hand up or been trying to put her hand up for a while. So I want to make sure we get to her.
Yeah, no, we are. I just want to make sure we get our questions in, and also the town manager has her hand up. Did you want to?
I just want to mention that I don't know if there's overthinking here, and I know there's a lot of concern about the offshore wind, but there are, as I think maybe Joe was just pointing out, there are many other risks out there. There are oil spill risks. There are a satellite could fall out of the sky down here. We cannot possibly cover every single risk. And as far as how it worked out for us, no one is probably more irritated and dismayed by the whole thing than town administration, because we had to spend so much time on it. But we did get a settlement.
Amy, go ahead.
Libby, are you done? Your hand is still up. I just didn't want to, okay, thanks. Thank you, Jill. Yes, we did. But we have spent over the last 6 years, a lot of money administratively. I mean, if you look at items A through E on the article, there are a lot of expenses that the town has incurred that we have not been reimbursed for. Lots of administrative time for sure on all aspects of offshore wind, including and legal fees that we have had to pay for this. This has been extraordinarily expensive already for the town. And I guess what we were trying to do is also, in addition to those things, talk about the suggestions that came up last time around insurance. So for future blade failure, clearly the cavalry didn't come. It cost us a lot of time and a year to even, have these conversations. The wind company really wasn't talking with us much. I mean, everybody lived this real time. Libby, you probably more than anybody. And so the thought process around an insurance policy, the more and more we thought about it, really made sense. Another expense that could be used here would be to do a risk assessment to just see where things stand. There are oil spills also associated with offshore wind there's real risk there. So we've seen lots of expenses that have been related to the blade fail, but also to just all aspects of it. And this is one project. This is 62 turbines, and there's a plan for 1,100 turbines out there right off our coast. So we are seeing a small fraction of what the possibilities are right now, and we've already had an issue. So I think this is a fairly big risk for us.
Jeremy, did you want to make a question, comment?
Yeah, I think what this use of proceeds is what I can best understand seeks to do is to have an alternative to the town pay for environmental protection in the case of a disaster, and possibly fund other litigation to be offensive and defensive against all kinds of environmental disasters. And so it's like a separate fund to protect from everything the town does to protect additively or differently environmental catastrophe, and to provide for an ability to conduct litigation against potential creators of those catastrophes.
Thank you, Jeremy. Martin, do you have a question or comment? Martin?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'd like to suggest something here rather than spend a lot more time on this. I think there's a clear separation here, a clear distinction between the objective of what this article tries to do and what the town is doing. And this is really an issue for the town, I believe, to resolve with this article, because and eventually this is going to be part of the town structure. And I think I would prefer to see that this be discussed directly with the town, see if what the town would like, what would make sense for the town from both a financial and a risk point of view, because they're the ones who know those things. And as Joe said, you can't protect it. We'd be setting up stabilization funds for every single risk. For satellite, we'd set aside money to protect us if a satellite lands on. So rather than, I would much prefer to see this resolved by the town and get an article for the town meeting that is acceptable to the town as well, because I have the feeling the town doesn't want to pursue this route right now.
Amy, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah. And so just to make one thing clear, we're not really looking for the town to set aside income or something, or to set aside funds for this, or to take something out of the operations budget. If you look, I mean, in the wording of this, what we're saying is we are going. The GE Vernova settlement would be a good place to start. They gave us $10.5 million. There will be claims from some businesses out there, et cetera. I would assume there's no way, even with the lawyers' fees and the fees that go to Verus, who will distribute the funds, that they will get to $10.5 million. So our source of funds here, we thought would come out of this. Now that fund, that escrow fund is not to be distributed till after July 1st, as I understand. I believe applications for this run through June 30. So I don't know if that changes things for Mr. Giorgio. I'm not exactly sure. And if we had to change a date in our article, if you could help us with that. But like I said, we're not looking to get in the way of a business. We are saying if up to $1 million after all of those businesses have cleared, if there's still money in the fund, we're not looking to interrupt something else that the town has planned. This would be coming out of that up to and no more than $1 million out of the payment that we are receiving from GE Vernova as a start.
Okay, so let's do do you all want to keep your amendment in? Do you want to make this amendment to the warrant, I guess, and keep this language, or maybe do you want?
I think that's probably not prudent.
No, I think what we would love to do is really talk to Mr. Giorgio. If that would be authorized, we would really, I think maybe he could help us if there's a way to rework this and keep it within the scope of the article. I think we would be really grateful if we could do that.
I'm going to let the town manager decide if that's appropriate. We normally don't amend articles, but you know, the moderator allows them to be amended on town floor. And that's kind of something that we don't really do here.
Right.
And again, I just want to emphasize, I don't think this is the mechanism, but that doesn't mean that it's not a valuable conversation to have a town meeting. I think we all agree with that.
Madam Chair, can I make a motion?
But I want to sort out what they want to do, because if we're gonna make a motion, we're gonna make a motion on the existing article that doesn't include this money, and I don't know if they want us to make a motion on that.
Right, so I'd
This is-
love.
Well, I mean, it's not really an amendment, it's something they've written and shown us, right? It's not.
I hear you, but that's what they want the feedback. So.
Right, but our motion that's gonna appear on the warrant is gonna be on the motion as written.
Yeah, but if they're gonna work
Unless
with
we
John
wanna make-
Giorgio to change it, and if they're gonna allow it to be changed, and it's just not our normal process, so I don't.
If I heard Mr. DiGiorgio, he has to be paid. He has to get the town, they have to get the town to agree to pay him.
Yeah, I know, that's why I said I think it's really up to the town manager if that's appropriate. It's not up to the finance committee. Chris?
I'm sure, I think we would only be addressing new language if we were gonna make a positive motion, right?
We could make an emotion to include their amendment, but we already know that this particular amendment isn't the right language.
Sorry,
That-
I was just gonna
You
suggest.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I am, but we would only be including their language if we were gonna make a positive motion. I have a feeling Joe is about to make a negative motion. If Joe's gonna make a negative motion, then we don't need to care about what they come back with. That'll happen on town meeting floor and the voters can decide that, I
I was
think.
gonna suggest take no action.
Well, same thing. It is
Well-
effectively the same as a negative motion.
And if I may, jump in here, Jill?
John? Yes.
You know, really, have me just available to try to fix problems that could have been avoided, I think. And the remedy though so if the finance committee I have no idea what you're gonna do, but if you were to vote to take no action, right? The moderator, in my experience, will look to the proponents and as a courtesy, allow the proponents to make a positive motion first. That's typically the way it works at town meeting. So
Right.
I think these proponents could go to Sarah and request assistance in drafting a motion. And I can tell you that Sarah will consult with me. She always
Okay.
does. And if it's coming from Sarah, if it's coming from the finance committee, that's one thing. But
Exactly.
providing assistance to the petitioners at this point is probably a slippery slope that I'm not sure you want to go down, if I'm making sense. So
It's not something the finance committee is gonna recommend or do. That's not our place. That's really kind of but I do think Sarah's usually quite generous about allowing amendments on town floor, so maybe that can get worked out separately. And we should go ahead and just make the motion with what's printed in the warrant right now. Does that make sense, Amy?
I'm going to take, I think, Mr. Giorgio probably knows best on what we should do here. So I think we're going to follow your recommendation on that. Val, are you okay with that?
Yep. Okay. All right, so we have a motion on 36 as it's written in the warrant right now.
Second. Oh, we
Do
have
we
a motion.
have-
I have a motion to accept it.
You want a motion to adopt 36?
Yeah.
Is there a second for a motion to adopt?
I thought we were gonna adopt it and then change them on the floor during the town meeting.
No, I think they're
No.
gonna try and have Sarah
Oh.
amend it. Yeah. I think,
My understanding of the motion was to take no action.
is that your motion, Anthony?
It is.
And Joe, you want to make a second?
A second.
Okay. On your motion, Anthony,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And Jill's and I. Okay, I think that works.
I'm gonna,
Actions.
No. Hold on, I'm so sorry.
I'm gonna
I'm forgetting somebody every time now.
It's all right. I'm not hurt.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Val.
you
Thanks,
very
Amy.
much. No, thank you very
We
much.
sorted
for
through a lot of
feedback,
issues.
everybody.
Yeah, it's an important issue to be talked about at town meeting. I think it's great.
They put a lot of
Thank
work
you.
into it too.
They did.
Really appreciate your time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is 73, so we're gonna have Vince, and Vince might be on a timeline here.
Nope.
Yeah, Vince, or no? Okay, okay. This is another complicated issue. Well, it is for me anyway.
Everything.
Hopefully I can simplify it.
Good. I'm sure you can.
Hopefully, Vince Murphy, Natural Resources Department, just so whoever's taking the minutes. Would you like me to just introduce this simply?
Please.
Okay, so this is for a license for the Baxter Road properties for an erosion control structure. We have a town bylaw, chapter 67, section 1E, where we are required to bring any license agreements before the floor town meeting so that that can be then approved. So it can go to the select board to issue the license. This one has been on the warrant 2 previous years, and it was set aside twice before. So most of this committee has seen it in one in this exact form. This was, I think, drafted about 3 years ago with the help of KP Law and specifically Vicky Marsh. And again, thank you to her. This is for the expanded geotube structure now, and the existing that's on the ground. It would bring the permitting back into compliance. The Conservation Commission resolved the existing issues with the existing geotubes in March of 2025. So it was also a little bit too close to town meeting at the time. So at the time, we asked for it to be taken out. This time, we're in a far better position.
Okay.
So hopefully, with your approval, we would like this to move forward a third time lucky.
Okay, it sounded like there still was some discussion right before Christmas, I think, was that what it was? At select board. I feel like there was
Yes, so
a couple issues popped up.
yes, we're still working with SPPF on the terms of the license. That's going pretty okay. Then the hope is that we'll have that resolved by the middle of March, end of March, that kind of time frame, and then have, you know, a month or plus, hopefully maybe even longer, to be able to put the terms of the license out into the public sphere for the public to gauge before it goes to town meeting.
Okay, I don't remember, so if we gave it a positive motion before and then, right, if we pulled that at the last, so how did that work at town meeting? Because the warrant was already printed if it was late April last time.
I don't
Sorry,
remember the
I'm
exact
super
mechanism that John Giorgio used, but he had some, and I just don't remember. I
Okay.
apologize for that.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Does anyone have any questions for Vince? Wow. Yes, sir. Rick, please, Atherton.
Ready now?
5 minutes.
Make space for Rick. Thank you. So my name is Rick Atherton. I spent a lot of time as a selectman on the Baxter Road initiative. My main point today, number one, we know that this is a bylaw adopted by town meeting initially in 2012. Overwhelmingly, it was amended overwhelmingly by town meeting. Town meeting's intent here from Catherine Stover's initial presentation was that it should have a say in how our property is used. And not just to turn that say over to the selectmen all by themselves, where 3 members of the select board could approve a license and approve the project going forward. I think the purpose of going to town meeting, I think, is beneficial to all of our residents to have a say about this project. Specifically, the way the wording is, as I read the proposal right now, it is essentially open-ended. It does not refer to any specific project. It, in essence,
returns the power to grant a license to the select board by themselves forever under any project, as long as it's approved by the Conservation Commission. So 6 years from now, maybe the project hasn't worked, the Concom approves, let's say they approve boulders, just to take an example. And the select board wants to move forward. But the town, the citizens don't want to have boulders. They would have given up their right to act on the license to approve that project going forward without any input by the owners. And so I just feel the drafting of this article is much too broad. In effect, it takes Article Bylaw 67 and sets it aside forever and makes it inoperable. And I don't think that's what the citizens approved the bylaw for in the first place. And to me, there's no reason that we shouldn't have specificity in the article if we get to that point. At least then you'd have something clear and not make the article take away this ability of town meeting to act on any kind of erosion control project on our property. So,
Can I ask you a question here?
sure.
So this is a license. And as a selectman, I'm sure you understand that the role of the select board is a licensing body, actually. That the role of town meeting and the legislature, I don't think they are a licensing body. So I'm just wondering how you square that up.
Well, there's a bylaw existing in the town regulations right now. It says the select board can issue licenses up to a 5-year maturity period. They cannot issue licenses beyond that, and they don't have the authority to do so. This license is from a much longer period. The project is hopefully involved with going 30, 40, 50 years in the future. And I think anybody who wants to invest the amount of money that's required for this project and not have a license that takes it through its expected life would not be a wise decision. That may be up to them. The initial licenses for earlier projects had termination, I'm going back to 2010 era, had termination dates in them. Okay. And then they had a license that initially had it was what I call an evergreen. If nobody calls the license to ask it to terminate, it goes on forever. And I don't think that's a good way to operate either. But I think town meeting wants to act on this. So I don't know if that helps answer your question.
Well, it doesn't sound like the license could have the agreement that and this is authorizing them to give a license. The license could still have a sunset date on there and what I would assume would have a termination date or a reauthorization date, right?
We're still working on the contents of that, but basically almost everything that constitutes an error or a fault or a flaw has the same results where the structure would get removed. So if, and the town would have to have money on hand to do that, and all of those aspects are in there. So we have, it's not completed, but it is what I can only call an extraordinarily strict set of terms as it currently stands. And it's going to change the feeling of how this works and give an awful lot of surety to the town.
But there isn't there's not a date, an end date, as Rick is sort of suggesting, right? This is just giving them the authority to have, to enter into their agreements.
Yes, and then there are clauses in there where the select board can undertake a review at any point. So any select board could come together in the future and say, all right, well, we've had enough of this now. We can work on a next phase.
Okay.
So the reviews could go anywhere from increasing the license terms right through removal. So yes, there is no exact date, but every select board in the future can have the option to change that.
Well, and I know that Mr. Atherton would definitely be all over them if he wanted them to do a review and hit the pause button, but I guess that's not really what.
I've sort of said my position here.
Yeah.
I think town meeting deserves the opportunity to act on this each time there's a change. In other words, not just giving it away forever and making the bylaw not effective. I think that's an inappropriate use of this article.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you, Mr. Atherton.
Madam
Thank you for
Chair.
coming and sharing that.
Do
Joe?
we know what the future of the geotubes is, given what has happened, the slashing?
Forgive me for,
Are they still are they operative, or are they dead, or what?
it's the subject of an ongoing police and detective level investigation, and the best thing I can do is not involve ourselves in that just yet, and probably just let that
There's an intersection between those two, between the windmills and the
the windmills. I heard nothing to do with windmills,
turbines?
nothing to do with that.
Okay.
It's
Madam
okay.
Chair, if I may.
Anthony, please.
I think it's about time that an article like this came forward and got put forward. Honestly, I don't think I support this motion strongly. I think more needs to be done actually on the island in terms of ability to make these types of decisions and act in the best interest of protection, the long-term protection of Nantucket, versus they sometimes see the short-term interests of individuals who own properties in certain places. So I do agree with one point, however, which is, can there be limits or sort of time reviews in essentially put against licenses? I think that's probably a good idea. But other than that, personally, I'd like to see this go forward.
Yeah, I agree. Does anybody have any questions or have more discussion? Would anybody like to make a motion?
So moved. To adopt.
Motion to adopt Article 73. Yeah, is there a second?
A second.
Anthony, on your
Yep.
motion, Peter?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
I'm trying not to forget anyone this time. Jeremy?
Aye.
Joanna?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Did I forget? Martin? I almost forgot Martin.
Aye.
And Jill's and I. Okay, thank you. That was a lot more straightforward than I thought. And Mr. Atherton, thank you for coming. We know you served this town for a very long time and that you care passionately about this issue.
Finance Committee.
Thank you.
Okay, you're up, Mr. Barnes. Someone else who served the island for a very long time.
Yeah, and continues to.
We are grateful.
It's always fun to watch the show.
So I don't think we need to talk about your articles again, although I will tell you, somebody stood up at the select board last night. Did you watch select board last night?
It was Ash Wednesday. I was in church.
You were in church. Somebody did stand up in the public comment and they mentioned that they weren't quite sure what they were voting on for the town
I have
council.
a very simple solution.
Yes, so why don't you tell us what you think?
I think the comments that were made when I presented this were very helpful. And based on those comments and the current state of affairs, I would request that you take no action on this article now. I am working on a more appropriate approach, and I will certainly discuss it with Mr. Giorgio next time around. So take no action is the appropriate course of action.
Yeah, right. Do I hear a motion?
May I ask?
Yeah.
Sorry, I know you're trying to move things along, but may I ask?
Well, no, we've just talked about his for a
Well,
while.
well, I know, but we only talked about the technical aspects of the issues with it. We never actually get to discussing the merits of it. So I didn't get a chance to ask those questions the last time.
Well, go ahead.
My question is, what had changed since a year ago? In conditions, bring this article
What has
forward?
changed has that the committee issued an extensive report, and an appendix to that report were two charters, a charter for the town and the county. And that's changed because we now have a document that could be acted on. But as Mr. Giorgio said, the substance of the charters was not included in my article. I thought when we submitted the report and it was attached, and I have it, that made it
Right, but
comprehensive.
so the thing that changed since this was defeated 2-1 9 months ago, as a sense of the meeting, the hypothesis is bringing it forth with more specificity with a charter for people to actually read would change the view of the electorate?
I think that's Mr. Giorgio's comment, bringing a charter and explaining why this charter makes sense is my objective to.
So we thought that was the missing piece in the overwhelming
It
vote
certainly
against.
seemed to be, and I accept that, and I'm working on Plan B.
Okay, good. I was just trying to figure out why this is coming back 9 months later after such
Yeah,
a
well,
overwhelming negative response.
But that was the
Here.
sense of the meeting, Chris. I don't think that's totally fair. I mean, people were just, it's a whole new concept.
Well, that's my
It is-
question. That is my
Yeah, but it is
question.
a big, big concept that
Well,
people.
it's not
have-
really a new concept. There's more
It-
detail.
for-
in it.
well, it's a new
Nantucket it
charter
is.
that would.
Oh, I see. You're saying the overall-
significantly.
Yeah, that is sort of a new idea to put in
Right.
people's minds, and I think, we
Yeah.
did wanna get that feedback, and I think it's good that we did, but I don't necessarily think that that means people wouldn't get more educated the more they talked about it and thought about it, and as the island grows and as our budget grows, as it's grown as 40% since I've been on the finance committee, and we have a lot more people here. I mean, at some point, I'm not even saying it soon, but people might wanna consider it more strongly.
I totally take it. Totally take
That's
your
all I
point.
mean.
And I know things change and people might want to reconsider. Seems like we're reconsidering it awfully quickly was my,
I see.
and I wanted to know
Yeah.
what had changed. And either that could be in how we message it and how we talk about it, which is
Right.
really what Curtis is saying. Or it could be, oh, the budget's up 30% this year, or something happened at special town meeting that maybe we don't agree with. It would have, I'm looking for what, it was pretty overwhelming. And I get it, that
Again, no one had ever really talked about that. There's really not been any debate about it. I'm not saying it wasn't valid. I'm not saying it wasn't, but
that's all. I just want,
Yeah.
it's only 9 months later and I'm looking for why we would.
Well, it'll
expect it
be,
to
now it'll
yeah,
be,
yeah, for
it'll
sure.
be 2 years later, it comes back.
I take your point.
And I think Mr. Giorgio's point is put the charter in front of the people and explain why the charter that's proposed is different, better. And that's the objective. And, I'll be very happy to give you a complete copy, all 84 pages of this, because I'd like you to read it. And, I'd love your comments. But anyway, my request is take no action.
Okay, thank you.
If we're done with, I'd make a motion if we're done with discussion.
Sure. Does anyone have any other comments? I'm not trying to end discussion. I just. Okay,
Move to take no action.
okay, great. Is there a second? On your motion, Chris,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
and Jill. I'm an aye. Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
The next one, am I up on the next one?
Yes, now we're gonna talk about Boynton Lane,
Well.
kind of what you're thinking about that.
I've had several conversations with Tom Dixon. We met with Rachel Freeman. My objective on the Boynton Lane article was with the food pantry and Nourish Nantucket down there. You're gonna grossly increase your traffic. It's a private road. It's not plowed. All of the parking is on the sidewalk. There's a bus station at the corner. People who are coming on the bus are gonna have to walk down there, and I felt it was a public safety hazard. However, the appropriate course of action, I believe, is refer to the planning board and let them wrestle through it and see where we go with the county commissioners and with the land bank at the same time.
Okay, I don't really know how that one works if we just refer to the planning board. Did we do that in our motions?
Sounds like you're asking for us to take another motion to take no action.
That's okay with me. I've talked with Leslie, I've talked with Mike Burns. I mean,
Okay.
I've talked with everybody who's a player and they're all sort of in the same arena. Yeah, it makes sense, but here, how do we do it? So take no action. is fine.
Take no action, for further study, same thing.
Is this?
Make a comment?
This a retail concept? What are they gonna do in there? What is the plan?
Well, my objective was public safety.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I'm trying to figure out how. much
Nobody
more
has
are
come
gonna
up
come in
with
and
a
out.
plan yet. But, you know, again, as I said, I've talked with Mike Burns, Leslie, I've talked with Tom Dixon as the chair of the county commission. He said it's a county action, not a town action. So
take no action is fine. It's gonna bubble over to someplace in plus.
Go through the right channels.
Let 'em-
It sounds like too, because it's new, you know, with
Yeah.
being in that location and they're doing some renovations, it might give you a little time to see how it goes because people might just all come and leave and.
My whole concern was public safety, just because I thought it was a public safety matter, so. I don't have any big tough illness to do.
That makes perfect sense. Anybody have other questions or comments? Can I get a motion on Article 82?
Move to take no action.
Second.
On your motion, Chris,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
and Jill's and I. It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Curtis.
I'll be back.
We hope so. Gosh, our house license was due.
Next
Be
meeting.
devastated if you weren't here.
Curtis, I have an idea. But we'll wait till after the meeting.
Yeah, okay. All right.
All right, with that, are there any committee reports? I can't think of any, you all saw the capital report went out and.
I did, but I confused you today. When I wrote CPC, I was moving, I've been capital program committee, not.
Yeah,
So,
like what?
and so was I, so we were crossing on each other. I shouldn't use
You
abbreviations.
thought that like, Jill, what are you talking about? You don't have this report. You're like.
So I couldn't, I mean, I found the report, I've read the report as it existed in the select board package, but I couldn't find it as a standalone report on the.
Oh, well, they probably haven't put it on the website yet because we changed it just the day
Okay,
before.
25 and 26 are there, but
The
27 is.
we added some money for the airport. They had a project they wanted to put in, and so, and then Sue is not working today, so I'm not positive it could
Okay,
go.
so I'm just trying to get, I didn't want to have to print out the whole select board packet to get.
No,
my
I
hands
agree.
on that
You don't
report.
want to have to scroll through either. It's a pain. Yeah, we will make sure that we'll send it around individually.
Great.
But there was an amendment, and that's really the last minute amendment. That's why. Yeah. Well, good. So when you said that, I thought you meant what we're doing today. And then that didn't, that's why I
Okay.
told you, we're not doing that
Right,
today.
and then I was like, we were doing that today?
I know, we shouldn't use those same letters, I think, for those two committees. It's confusing. All right, our next meeting is March 3rd. So we won't meet next week. Really, our next dates are March 3rd, 5, 9, and 10 or more backup, but we know we're gonna have some people on the 10th. Probably a little bit longer meeting because the school's gonna come the 10th. I think the 3rd will be in PEDC so far. The two articles for that, as well as some other things that are getting pushed off, so we'll keep you posted. The school.
School's on.
Yeah, and they're actually meeting tonight and they're doing a forum at the state for people interested to hear about the details of their project. It's at 6 o'clock tonight. Okay, with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Don't move.
Second,
Second.
Long distance.
Peter?
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Jules and I. Great work, everyone. Thank you and see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Enjoy